western end of the Gibb River Road is a land of mighty boabs and huge limestone escarpments. This whole place used to be the bottom of an ocean. You can't tell it now, but it's one of the most stunning landscapes in the The middle of the Gibb River Road is an open plain broken by the Barnett Ranges to the south and a country worked, almost defined, by running water to the north. The deep gorges here are filled with crystal clear water. The stations, once inundated with cattle, are now quiet retreats where travelers can fall into the rhythm of the Kimberley. Accessed via Mount Barnett Roadhouse, Manning Gorge is one of the more demanding gorges along the Gibb, but also one of the most rewarding. Anybody who says there's no adventure left in the Kimberley hasn't been to Manning Gorge. This is one of the most unique gorges in the area, primarily because of this little crossing here. The hike that goes out to the gorge is about 45 minutes, but to get there, you've got to get across the Manning River first. Now, there used to just be a few styrofoam boxes to carry your boots and cameras over. Now, these days, life's gotten a little bit easier. And we've got a boat here. And this gets you and all your gear right over to the other side. And Manning Gorge is also one of the most picturesque gorges on the Gibb River Road. Beautiful black rock, white cascade over it. But the best thing about this little hike is a swim at both ends. Now, once we're at the other side, all I've got to do is get out of this thing in one piece. Oh, land, sweet land. Now it's just a 45-minute hike over what I think is some of the most beautiful country in this part of the world, and then drop down into the falls. Everything changes along the way. It's a great hike. It's a little bit hot, but there is a swim at the other end. So let's go. On the hike out to Manning Gorge, pass through some clean, open savanna country. And this is all part of the Kimberley Plateau. Now, the Kimberley Plateau was actually formed several hundred million years ago when this country was all the bottom of an ocean, not far from the shore. From the eucalypt savannas at the top of the plateau here, the track drops down from this rolling sandstone boulder country, and everything changes again. The water running off the plateau has fed this country. We've got young boabs behind me, even river gums down here, and the land is got a lot richer. There's less grass, more young trees. It means we're almost there. Should be at the falls pretty soon. About halfway down the 45-minute walk to Manning Gorge, the question inevitably bubbles up. Is this going to be worth it when I get to the end? Well, have a look at this. This is the Kimberley at its best. Blue skies, cascading water, deep swimming holes. It's hard to imagine the ferocity of the water in the wet that could carve this gorge out 50 meters deep. It's hard sandstone, but this water, over millions of years, just carved out this little paradise in the middle of that savanna desert. All right, the last stage of the mission, man versus waterfall. I just have to get from here to there in this ice cold water, and then get off the top there without breaking my neck. Should be interesting. Wow, what a great day, hiking out to Manning Gorge. It's a long walk, totally worth it. Beautiful waterfalls at the end, jumping off the cliffs. I love this kind of stuff. I always say that this is my favorite place on the Gibb River Road because, frankly, it's the kind of place you fall in love with over and over again. But seriously, how could you top a day like that better than having a picnic right here in the middle of the Manning River? Cold beer, nice sanger, the sun slowly setting behind me. This is the life.
Coming up next, we visit Charnley River Station, a hidden oasis just off the Gibb. Charnley River Station is about 30 kilometers north of the Gibb River Road, but it is a world unto itself. You can spend days here exploring the endless gorges and dusty tracks by four-wheel drive. The earth turns blood red here, and the real Kimberley, the one far from the postcard images of sunset Boabs and Pentecost crossings, comes alive. This is a country of wan paperbarks waiting for the rain, lily ponds holding on to what is left from the last rains, and prehistoric lizards lurking beneath still waters, waiting for their chance to rule the earth again. This is a country shaking off the brief blink of cattle grazing history, returning to its wild heart.
Come to the conclusion that the Kimberley region's a little bit like a theme park. You drive down the Gibb River Road, which is like the walkway that takes you through the theme park, and all the attractions are off to the left and the right. Every one of them's different, again, just like a theme park. This one here, Charnley River Station, is just completely different to everything else we've been to. There's some similarities in there's gorges and there's four-wheel driving and that sort of stuff, but this one's a wildlife conservation park as well. This is Charnley River Station, and this is Mike, who looks after the homestead. So mate, the wildlife side of things, what are we going to see around here?
The wildlife is pretty varied. We have many unique animals, including lots of different birds that are unique to the area and the Kimberleys. We have three main species of macropod or kangaroo here. We have the agile wallaby, the antilopine wallaroo, and we have some euros. Several reptiles, plenty of goannas, and indeed in this pool right here we have a resident freshwater crocodile we call Snappy, and which is why we have a sign here, because I very nearly ran over him a few weeks ago and my wife decided it was a good idea to try and slow people down.
Charnley River Station sprawls over 3,000 square kilometers, or nearly 750,000 acres, yet it only runs 3,000 head of cattle. One of the first properties along the Gibb River Road to offer accommodation to tourists, these days it is perfectly suited to the traveler who wants to get out into the Kimberley wild, to visit gorges well off the beaten track, and see a menagerie of bird species unparalleled throughout the region. Mike and his wife Karen showed us around the countryside, a place they've fallen in love with while managing the property. The day started at Lily Pools, one of the closest gorges to the homestead, a lush oasis ensconced between towering rock faces. The gorges here were cut during the wet, but they are spring-fed, and the year-round water ensures that wildlife is drawn here consistently.
This is Lily Pools. It's one of the swimming holes here on Charnley River Station. Interestingly, It's only been called Charnley River Station for about the last 15 years. Prior to that, it was Old Beverly Springs. It was actually first settled in around about the 60s, so it's not very old as far as people living here. So where I'm standing today was probably only first visited by white people in the last 30 or 40 years. The grevillea trees around here are what helped name this gorge Grevillea Gorge. It's the deepest gorge here on Charnley Station and to me the most picturesque. Water is what carved these gorges out over millions and millions of years, and it's what changes here on a daily basis. Where I'm standing right now, only 3 weeks ago, I'd have been up to here in water and it would have been a whole lot more uncomfortable than it is for me here today.
Even though Charnley is such a massive station, it's still surprising how much the land changes in a few short kilometers. The colors of the rocks blend from ochre to granite grey. The shape of the land is transformative, the waistlines of the trees expanding from waspy tea trees to jovial boabs.
Dilly Gorge is a red-hot spot to come and check out the Kimberley boab. Now this tree is native to this area. They've just become the symbol of the whole Kimberley region, and I think it's absolutely perfect that they have, because anything that's tough enough to live here is just perfectly embodied by what is the boab. These things will live for up to 2,000 years, the experts believe. No one really knows. So like these guys up on the hill behind me, it's quite feasible that they were sitting there growing, albeit a little smaller, in biblical times. These guys have put a sausage sizzle on for all the punters down in the camping area tonight, and I've been hooked up with operating a set of tongs. Apparently someone thought I knew what I was doing. Fooled them, didn't I? So we'll get the kiddies lined up first, we'll get them through for a snag, and we'll get this show on the road.
This far along the road, it sinks into you quickly and easily. The rush of the journey begins to melt into the patterns of Kimberley dawns and smoky sunsets, and the genuine smiles of the people you meet out here. Coming up, some Kimberley cliff jumping. Coming out of Charnley River Station, where we'd spend a few days exploring and relaxing, which is exactly what you come here to do, there's a unique opportunity to delve into the history of earlier explorers right at the doorstep of the property.
In the late 1800s, two brothers decided they were going to push into the north and explore Cape York Peninsula, trying to find somewhere where they could graze cattle. William and Frank Hahn. Ring a bell? Hahn River Roadhouse, Cape York? Absolutely it does. Frank decided he was going to push further to the west, towards the Gulf of Carpentaria. He established what was now Lawn Hill Station. A few bad seasons and Frank loses the lot. All he has left are 67 horses, but not a man to be beaten. He got his horses and he headed further west towards the Kimberley. And there's still evidence of his exploration right across the top here, and things like this tree here with his initials carved into them. For me, what's amazing about these destinations, Cape York Peninsula and the Kimberley, the places the Hahn brothers explored, is that even today, they are still two of the most iconic, remote, hard to get at places. I can only imagine what it would have been like the day that Frank Hahn sat under this tree, carving his name.
For these itinerant Kimberley pioneers, Boabs are more than just majestic reminders that we are far from the oldest living things on the planet. They were landmarks, and as history has proven, blank canvases for graffiti, which, if it lasts long enough, becomes history.
Ever since I was a little kid, I've dreamed of being an explorer. In those days I thought wherever. But the guys at HEMA, they're prepared to explore. That means they're not relying on aerial photography to reprint some maps to sell to you. These guys are actually out here in the map patrol, going down these outback tracks with state-of-the-art half-meter accurate GPS. That's far more reliable than you need to be, but that's what these guys are about, getting things right and getting the information out there. Because there's nothing worse if you're in the outback, if you don't know where you're going and where you've been, you can get into some pretty bad trouble. That's been an amazing experience for me, being a part of that process. Over the last few months, I've been working with HEMA to update some of their guidebooks, and when they heard I was coming to the Kimberley for a while, it was the perfect opportunity to bring the map patrol along, update some of the maps in this region, and see if we can make the books even better. And I got to be an explorer for a while in the process. All of the gorges along the Gibb River Road consistently elicit feelings of awe, wonder, and wow, what a beautiful place. But for me, no place is as special as Galvans Gorge. There's a jump here that I've been looking at a few times. It must be about 9 or 10 meters high. And today I'm gonna go try and jump off of it. Now I've seen this place a few times, looked at pictures, I know it can be done. The water's deep enough. I just need to be deep enough now. Work past that fear and hopefully get into it. And I think if I do it, it'll be easier. But it's just taking that first leap of faith, I guess, off the cliff. You actually have to jump over a tree, so it's gonna be pretty intense. I can't wait to go do it.
Galvans is the closest gorge to the Gibb, and while you can't camp here, it's the perfect place for a picnic and a quick swim.
Wow, this is it. It looks a lot higher than I remember it. There's still a tree in the way as well. Hopefully the water's deep enough for a nice deep landing. All I have to do now, steel myself up, build up some willpower, climb up to the top, and hopefully have the courage to make the big plunge. Let's do it. I don't know about you, but my hands are shaking. My heart's beating just up in my throat. This is the highest jump I've seen done in the Kimberley, and yeah, now it's just that point where I'm going to talk myself into it. So I guess there's no point in leaving it too long. I just have to clear the tree on the way down. Wow, you can't do that in Disney World. It does hurt the feet a little bit, but that is something I don't have to do twice, thank God. But it was awesome doing it once.
You can spend months exploring just a fraction of the Kimberley. Tracks and gorges cut through this landscape, breaking it up fractally into endless variegated worlds, each with a voice, a scent, and a color all its own. It's easy to blow down the Gibb River Road, stopping in at all of the places with varnished signs offering civilized retreats from the wilderness that creeps in at night and threatens with every wet season to encroach upon the fragile hold these stations have on any real stability, to obliterate any trace that man has ever tread upon this land. But once you step out of your comfort zone and off the sometimes graded corrugations of the highway that the Gibb has become, the country unfolds like a lotus, offering layer after layer of experiences. Against this backdrop of the fragility of life, the Boabs stand tall, thousands of years old, witnesses to more than we can know, holding their wisdom within them like the water they store from year to year, eking it out through their leaves for the traveler who has time to slow down and soak it in. When you do, when you really let the Kimberley get into your bones, into your very essence, you realize it is a movable feast. Anyone who has spent any time here at all knows that it goes with you, becomes a part of you. Here's to another day, living the dream.